माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माँ यमुना माई की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की समवेत भक्त वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So today we are reading from Canto number 3, chapter 22, verse number 11. Tat praticcha dvija greya ma greya. Okay, just give me. Yeah, tat praticcha dvija greya mam shraddhaya apaharitam Maya sarvatmana anurupam te grihamedishu karmasu tat praticcha dvijagreyamam tat praticcha dvijagreyamam shraddhaya roparitam maya Shraddhaya oparatam maya sarvatmananurupam te grihamedishu karmasu tat praticcha dvijagreyamam Shraddhaya oparatam maya sarvatmananurupam te Grihamedishu karmasu tat praticcha dvijagreyamam Shraddhaya uparata maya sarvatmananu rupam te Grihamedishu karmasu. Tat praticcha griha greyamam Tat praticcha dvijagreyamam Shraddhayo parata maya sarvatmananurupam te grihamedishu karmasu tat praticcha dvijagreyamam Shraddhayo parata maya sarvatmananurupam te grihamedishu sarvashu karmashu. Tat praticcha dvijagreyamam Shraddhayo parata maya sarvatmananurupam te grihamedishu karmashu. Mataji, next to try. Okay. Tat, therefore, praticha, please accept. Dvija agriya, O best of the Brahmanas. Imam, her. Shraddhaya, with faith. Upahartam, offered as presentation. Maya, by me. Sarva Atmana, in every way. Anurupam, suitable. Te, for you. Grihamedishu, in household. Karmasu, duties. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, please accept her, O chief of the Brahmanas, for I offer her with faith, and she is in every respect fit to be your wife and take charge of your household duties. Purport. The words Grihamedishu Karmasu means in household duties. Another word is also used here, Sarvatmananurupam. The purport is that a wife should not only be equal to her husband in age, character and qualities, but must be helpful to him in his household duties. The household duty of a man is not to satisfy his sense gratification, but to remain with a wife and children and at the same time attain advancement in spiritual life. One who does not do so is not a householder but a grihamedi. Two words are used in Sanskrit literature. One is grihastha and the other is grihamedi. The difference between grihamedi and grihastha is that grihastha is also an ashrama or spiritual order. But if one simply satisfies his senses as a householder, then he is a grihamedi. For a grihamedi, to accept a wife means to satisfy the senses. But for a grihastha, a qualified wife is an assistant in every respect for advancement in spiritual activities. It is a duty of the wife to take charge of household affairs and not to compete with the husband. A wife is meant to help, but she cannot help her husband unless she is completely equal to her in age, character and quality. Thus ends the purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you all for coming for today's Srimad Bhagavatam class, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. So in the current verse, basically it describes about the qualifications of Devahuti, Mother Devahuti, to be the wife of Kardama Muni. And we generally see that Kardama Muni and Devahuti are often quoted as like ideal wife and husband, right? I mean, you want to know what an ideal wife is, you look at the qualities of Devahuti, and you want to know who is an ideal husband is, then those are the qualities of Kardama Muni. So they are always been the cover page of the Grihastha, ideal Grihastha life. And here it is mentioned about the qualifications and some of the qualities required for an ideal husband and a wife. And also it mentions about the compatibility, like they should be compatible, means they should have the equal qualifications for them to be an ideal wife and a husband. And that is why, generally, whenever a devotee wants to marry, he always looks for a wife who has the qualities of Devahuti. And at the same time, whenever a woman wants to marry, she also looks for a man who is having the qualities of a Kardama Muni. But in reality, it may be possible, it may not be possible. Not everyone is very fortunate to get someone of these qualities. So as a result, what happens is that either a person is either unhappy in his married life, or even though he's staying with his partner, or sometimes they may end up the marriage life. So, but however, with the qualities on both sides, not just the wife or not just the husbands, both should be qualified, a qualified husband and also a qualified wife. They make an ideal couple. Um, but however, because if either one of them lacks any of these qualities, then that is where all the problems in the marriage life is created. But and then when you talk to them that what is the problems with your marriage life, then each one will be telling the other person's bad qualities. My husband is like this, like this, and the husband will be telling my wife is like this, all the bad qualities. But forget about the qualifications. But if you ask them the most fundamental question, that why did you even get married in the first place, right? What is the purpose or what is the reason why you got married in the first place? Then what would be the answer? That should be very clear. Because before we even jump into these qualities of a husband and wife, but first of all, we must try to understand or define or have a proper understanding. Why are we even getting married in the first place? The purpose has to be very clear, right? Once the purpose is clear, then whatever the shortcomings are, we can work it out. That's not a problem. So, the first thing is the purpose of marriage, right? So everyone over here either is married or planning to get married, right? And you all have a reason to get married, or if you're not married, you also have a reason not to get married, right? So what do you think is the purpose of marriage? Anyone likes to try? Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Sure. Exactly. So Bhrigupati Prabhu has just said that the purpose of marriage is basically to have a child, and when you have a child, the child can perform the Shraddha ceremony for the parents, so that in case the parents are not liberated, at least they're not in the hellish planets, right? So that is the purpose of the Shraddha ceremony.
This is one thing. Another thing is to together advance in Krishna consciousness, to help one another to go together spiritually.
Yeah, but you want to advance together, but you don't need a wife. I mean, you can have a friend. Why a wife? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually that is the last reason why you want to get married, is because you don't want to control senses. Because usually when you want to be a good grihastha, you should be a good brahmachari. Entering a grihastha is not, being a bad brahmachari is not a reason to enter a grihastha ashram. Yes, exactly. Varnashrama. You want to follow the principles of Varnashrama. Anyone else? No. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. So everybody has a different reasons, right, for why they want to get married. But however, sometimes when this reason is defeated, then that is where the problem is created, and then people think of either breaking up or they're having some family issues. But generally, the main reason, even in the today's morning during Mangalarti, Naikatman Prabhu was reading the Prabhupada's purport. Over there, Prabhupada mentions the reason to get married is basically to produce children, a Krishna conscious children. That is the main reason to get married. So what I'm going to do right now is that I will tell you briefly like what is the Vedic perspective of marriage, and also explain a little bit about how the Bhagavatam, the perspective on the marriage. They are slightly different. I'll explain those things. So this is the Vedic definition of marriage. Dharma praja sampatti ardham striyam udave. Basically, the entire Vedic civilization is geared towards the four Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So, by the process of marriage, the purpose is that basically one can attain the Purusharthas, the four Purusharthas, and also at the same time he can repay the debt to the parents by him producing one more child. Right? So that is the purpose, the Vedic purpose behind the marriage. And as we all know, there are 5 kinds of debts. Any human being, when a person is born, basically he is born with 5 kinds of debts. Prabhupada talks about these debts in many places. The first one is a debt to the demigods, right? Because the demigods are the one who are going to provide all the facilities to us, right? And that's why we are indebted to the demigods. And also we are indebted to the sages, Because we study the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Shastras, we have, those are, those are the contribution by the sages. So we are indebted to the sages. That's called Rishi Runa. And also we are indebted to our ancestors because we inherit everything from our ancestors, right? Including our body and DNA, right? So that is why we are indebted to our forefathers. That is called Pitri Runa. And we are also indebted to the society where we are living in, right? So we are indebted to our society as well. And the last one is debt to the nature or Bhutaruna, because the nature is providing so many things for us, right? So we are also indebted to the Bhutaruna. So these are the 5 kinds of debts every person is having. And the Vedic civilization basically has a system where you can repay all these debts. Anyone likes to guess how you repay the debt to the demigods? Yes. Go again. Yajna, yes. Through yajna, through the performance of sacrifices, you pay the debt to the demigods. How do you repay the debt to the sages? Yes, that's one part of it. There's one more part of it. You want to try? Studying scripture. There's one more part. It's not only just studying, but studying and teaching the scriptures. Studying and teaching. Yes, you should also teach. It's not enough to study. You should also teach. And how do you repay the debt to the ancestors? Okay, that's one part. There's one more. Yeah, exactly. So there are 2 things. First of all, we procreate. Because you see, like when we are born, our parents has did so many sacrifices for us, right? They brought us up, they did so many things for us. But we know we don't really like pay them, right? Right? I mean, they just do it as a causeless mercy. I mean, there's no reason for them to do that, but they anyway do that, right? But for us to repay the debt, the way we repay the debt is by actually we having our own children and then doing the same sacrifice what our parents have done for us. So by this way, we repay the debt to our ancestors, to our parents. To the ancestors, we repay the debt by performing the Shraddha ceremony. And how do you repay the debt to the society? Yes. Yes, Maharaj. Yes. Yes. Yes, that is true. Exactly. I understand. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. I'll get to that. I agree with you. I get to that. So the debt to the society. Anyone likes? No. That is basically done by welcoming the guests. Because even if you see the previous chapter, how the Karda Muni welcomes Manu. It's a Vedic culture. You respect the guests. That's how you receive the guests. And the last one is the debt to the nature. That is done through 5 types of sacrificial sacrifices. So in this way, the Vedic version of the marriage is basically to repay the debt to our forefathers and also to attain the ultimate Purusharthas. And then this is that is why when a person is married, this is done through Saptapadi or the 7 promises. When a person is married, the wife and husbands, they take the 7 promises. The first promise is that together we will share the responsibilities of home and children. Together we will develop mental, physical and spiritual strength. Together we will prosper and share our worldly goods. Together we will fill over our hearts with great joy, peace and happiness. Together we will raise strong and virtuous children. Together we will remain faithful and lifelong partners. And together we will cherish each other and our families in sorrow and happiness. So this is a commitment a husband and a wife makes at the time of marriage, so that each of them can attain the ultimate Purusharthas, the 4 Purusharthas. And the common word here used is together, right? Everywhere you see together. So that means that this is something which is done, which is together. That means that both should be of the equal caliber, or both should have the equal qualifications. That is where you can have together, right? If someone is too high or someone is too low, then that kind of develops like an inferiority complex, right? That is why, you should have the equal qualifications. That is why in this purport, in this purport, Prabhupada said that the wife should have the equal qualifications as that of a husband. But of course, sometimes you may have that Sometimes you may have a husband from a higher caste, but he can accepting the wife from a different lower caste. That is accepted. But in general, it's ideal for them to have the equal characters, the qualities. And this is one more the promise made during the time of the marriage. It says, Dharma ardena dharmecha artecha kamecha aham evam nati charami. Nati charami means basically I shall not walk away. Means I will not leave you alone. Right? Either in the matter of dharma or in the matter of artha or in the matter of kama. What all these three, basically I will not make any independent decisions. The husband is not supposed to make any independent decisions in the matter of these three without consulting his wife. That is what this mantra is telling, that we are together. In every decision we make, we are together in all the Purusharthas. So this is one of the promise the husband makes. But do you see something peculiar here? Do you see something peculiar here? Do you see something missing here? Huh? Yes. Exactly. You don't see the word moksha here. Where is moksha here? Right? Because generally it is understood that in the four Purusharthas, basically the husband and wife, basically they share dharma, artha and kama. But moksha is individual. Moksha is not, just because a husband is liberated, the wife doesn't mean that she is liberated. But when a husband goes to the higher planets, the wife also goes to the higher planets. And the wife and husband, they are supposed to cultivate their own spiritual strength in order to be liberated. But for a wife, because she's not reading the Vedas, that is why Vyasadeva has composed the Puranas, right? Stri Shudra Dvijabandhunam Trayina Shruti Gochara. Out of compassion for the great sage, to enable the men to achieve the ultimate goal, he composed the Mahabharata basically and Puranas for the women, laborers and friends of twice born. But actually Bhagavatam says something different. In the 7th canto, 11th chapter, 29th verse, over there it says, Ya patim hari bhavena bhajet sti iva tat para harer atmane harer loke pati srir iva modate. The woman who engages in the service of her husband, following strictly in the footsteps of the goddess of fortune, surely returns home, back to Godhead with her devotee husband and lives happily in the Vaikuntha planets. Why is it different here? Why is it different here? Why does Bhagavatam says that the wife also will go get liberated when she serves the husband, but whereas this Vedic injunction doesn't include the moksha? Yes. Exactly. Because in this case in the Bhagavatam, because see, the previous definitions, all that I have given, basically the foundation is the Karmakanda principles. It's all the Karmakanda principles. But Bhagavatam is not based on the Karmakanda principles. It is based on the Bhakti. It is based on devotion. But in the case of in a devotee, when a husband and a wife both are devotee, that when such a wife serves a husband who is a devotee, actually even she is qualified to go back to Godhead. That is what Bhagavatam is saying. So in this way, a person is fortunate, a wife is fortunate to get a husband who is a devotee, and in the same way, the husband is also fortunate when he gets a wife who is a devotee. By serving each other, actually they are also not only following the Varnashrama principles, but also can share the spiritual credits. So that is one of the advantage. But however, there is a condition here. The condition is that this is actually the 29th verse. But if you look at the previous verse, there is one condition. That it says that a chaste woman should equally engage with affection in the service of a husband who is not fallen. So this comes with a precondition. This comes with the precondition that the husband should be a devotee. Let's say that the husband is not a devotee, then basically she has to rely on her own spiritual strength in order to get liberated. So that is a problem. But however, if the husband is a devotee, then just by simply engaging in, pleasing his husband and trying to facilitate him, then actually she is also liberated. So that's a very important thing. So in this way, in this current example of Devahuti and Kardama Muni, both are actually equally qualified, right? Both are equally qualified, and then that is why Manu brings up this point when it's addressing to the Kardama Muni, that please accept this wife who is having equal qualities like that of you. And in this case, actually both are devotees also. So now here comes a problem. Now what happens if the wife or the husband is not a devotee, right? I mean, ideally we would like to get a have a couple who is like Devahuti and Kardamuni, where both are, devotees and both are having equal qualifications, and they're like an ideal wife and ideal husband, right? But that may not be always a reality. Sometimes it may so happen that a person may get a partner who is not necessarily a devotee, right? So how to deal with that situation? And especially it may even so happen that in some cases the wife or husband actually can even be sometimes obstructing in performing one's devotional service. It can happen, right? Have you seen such cases? Yes. But however, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityarja, just abandon all varieties of duties and just surrender unto me. So then why do I have to perform these duties of a wife or a husband, following, keeping with the Varnashrama principles and trying to emphasize so much on Varnashrama principles, when Krishna himself says just surrender everything, give up all types of dharmas, right? So that kind of creates some confusion in the devotees sometimes, right? Especially when they're put in a very awkward situation. And this, whatever I have explained before, all those Runa, Deva Runa, Priti Runa, all those are based upon the, Dharma Shastras. That is for the materialistic people. That's not applied for the devotees, right? Because as Maharaj was telling, a devotee is relieved from all kinds of debts. Because he's serving Krishna, he's relieved from all kinds of debts. So now, what's the point of following a dharma of a wife or husband when especially the other person is not a devotee and it is actually obstructing one's devotional service? How do you deal with that situation? And especially bhakti is not something depending on the varnashrama. Bhakti is ahituki, means it does not depend on the karma or jnana, right? So if that means that one can cultivate a devotional service even without being in the process of varnashrama system. So can we give up our varnashrama? Then in that situation, can we give up our husband or a wife? Can we practice bhakti independently? Yes.
He can still, for example, if man is devotee, is not,
Yeah.
he can still follow, he can work, I think maybe he can work on your own, he can still follow.
Okay. Sure. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I would like to bring up actually how to follow the principles of dharma, especially for the devotees. That is actually mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his book called Jaiva Dharma. Because that is a book, I would highly recommend every one of you to read, because that is exclusively for the devotees how to follow the principles of Varnashrama and the principles of dharma for the devotees. Over there it says, I would like to read like 3 paragraphs here. I mean, these are like extremely powerful, statements here. I would encourage you to read it multiple times. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Jaiva Dharma. Even though the religious duties associated with the 4 castes are naimittic in nature, they are still recommended for the maintenance of a domestic life. One cannot become a Vaishnava simply by giving up the social customs of the 4 Varnas. Vaishnavas should accept whatever is favorable for bhakti, and one can only give up the duties on the Varnas when he has become qualified to do so by genuine detachment. You see this? It is recommended that you still follow the Varnashrama principles, but however, it is okay for you to give up, but provided that you are qualified to do so by genuine detachment. Then one can give up the duties of 4 ashramas and everything associated with them. The next paragraph. Varna dharma can be given up easily when it becomes unfavorable to bhajan. Similarly, a Yavana who has awakened the faith in bhakti has a right to give up the association of the Yavana community if it becomes unfavorable for bhajan. Suppose that one Vaishnava is an Aryan who is qualified to give up the 4 Varnas, and another Vaishnava is a Yavana who is qualified to give up his community. Then what is the difference between them? Both of them have given up the Vyavahara, that which relates to ordinary life, and both have become brothers in regards to Paramartha, the spiritual reality. And the last paragraph. However, these principles of rejecting the Varna Dharma does not apply to Grihastha Vaishnavas. A Grihastha Vaishnava should not give up the domestic society until he is fully qualified to do so, even if it is unfavorable to one's bhajan. You see here? Especially for a Grihastha Vaishnava, even sometimes he is put in a situation where following his Varnashrama Dharma is unfavorable. to one's own practice of spiritual, practices, still Bhaktivinoda Thakur recommends, do not give up. Especially we can see, like, especially if you see the mothers who have children, right? Like they are so busy with so many things that they don't really actually have time for their own spiritual practice. And it may apparently seem that, it's kind of counterproductive to their spiritual life. But however, we can see Prabhupada many times that, he said that, when you have a child, your first dharma is to take care of the child. And sometimes it may so happen that you don't actually get time to chant your own 16 rounds, right? So here it says, a Grihastha Vaishnava should not give up the domestic society unless he is fully qualified to do so, even if it is unfavorable to bhajan. However, he can easily give up the worldly society when the firm attachment and affection for that which is favorable to bhajan awakens in his heart. So in this way, we can see that it is okay for a person to give up the Varnashrama principles to the degree to which he is surrendered to Krishna. It's not like a black and white, you see, right? It's not that, suddenly it happens. To the degree to which a person is, surrendered to Krishna, to that, because ultimately, dharma, basically the principles of dharma is there to provide you the shelter, right? It's a platform. Either you be supported on the platform of Varnashrama, or you be supported on the platform of bhakti, right? You cannot be, you cannot. There cannot be a case where you don't have both. Then you're lost, right? So let's look at some of the practical applications by Prabhupada. Yes. So I would like to give two examples here. The first one is the Prabhupada's sister, Pishima Bhavatarini. Right? Do you all know Prabhupada's sister, Bhavatarini, Mataji? Prabhupada's sister. So actually, if you see her, actually she also had a lot of issues in her family life. Her husband is actually not a devotee, and then, he was actually an alcoholic, and he used to eat meat. And from what I understand is that there was a lot of domestic abuse in her family life, actually. And she used to always approach Prabhupada, many times she used to approach Prabhupada, for the solution. And Prabhupada used to always say that you remain chaste and you still serve your husband, and then worship Gopal. That Prabhupada never recommended that you leave your husband to his sister Bhavatarini. So that's one example. We can see how Prabhupada has actually given the instructions to his sister how not to leave the husband, even though the husband is not a devotee, and who is actually sometimes it could be unfavorable to her practice of her spiritual life, because she is actually a great Vaishnava. Actually, she is a God sister, because they both took the initiation from the same Guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yeah. Sure.
I don't want everybody thinking it means a particular document or
No. Yes. Yeah. I would say marriage problems. You could say problems. Yeah. Yes, sure. And we can also see some of the practical applications of by Srila Prabhupada, especially with some of his Western disciples who are having actually non-devotee husbands, right? I think Archita Prabhu mentioned in a few classes before that there was one Mataji who had a husband who was not a devotee and who was not having a favorable, lifestyle to practice bhakti. So then Prabhupada actually said that, gave an instruction to her that no problem, but you don't divorce your husband, but you can stay in the ashram, right? That's what he has instructed. So now, if you look at this Jaiva Dharma principles and how to apply the principles of Dharma, especially in the life of a devotees, and looking at some of the examples of Prabhupada, so I kind of have put this in 4 steps. The first one is that, first of all, a person should not give up the Nitya Naimitic Dharma abruptly. Do not try to give up your Varnashrama principles abruptly. And especially if a person is coming from a family of such background, especially in the case of Prabhupada's sister, right, Bhavatarini, she's coming from the traditional Vedic background, that they have a very strong cultural identity. In that case, even just because you become a devotee, that is not a ground for you to give up the principles of Varnashrama. And for example, if you see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you see Lord Chaitanya, he was a sannyasi. But if you see, he actually followed all the rules of the sannyas ashram. He was very strict sannyasi, and he followed maximum to adhere to all the principles a sannyasi should be following. But however, when it so happened that these principles of sannyas ashram are in direct conflict with some of the principles of bhakti, he had no problem actually breaking them. For example, when he was taking prasad from Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family, it was apparently people actually had a problem that how you are a sannyasi, how can you take prasad from a person who is born in a low class family? But Lord Chaitanya actually didn't adhere to that. Basically, he honored the prasad which is given by Haridas Thakur. But wherever possible, Lord Chaitanya made sure that he strictly followed the rules of sannyas ashram. So in this way, just because when a person is becoming a devotee, do not give up your varnashrama principles. And let's say that even if those following those principles are having an unfavorable effects on one's practice of devotional service, still do not give it up. That is the instruction which is given by Prabhupada to his sister Bhavatarini. And one can give up the principles of varnashrama to the extent to which one is advanced in Krishna consciousness. That is why Srila Prabhupada, especially when he is giving the instruction to his Western disciples, right? He was okay having them, come and stay in the ashram just because they did not have a favorable, lifestyle or, living with their parents. But however, when one is completely surrendered to to Krishna and then fully sheltered under the platform of bhakti, then he is completely freed from all the obligations. And that is why in one of the sections of Jaiva Dharma, it is said that for a Paramahamsa devotee, there is no more Nityanaimittik karmas. He has no more obligations to follow Nityanaimittik karmas, or in other words, the principles of Varnashrama principles. So in this way, we can see that for an ideal family life, we aim for a husband and a wife like Devahuti and Kardama. But even though if someone is fortunate enough to get someone like that, then his life is successful. But even if a person does not have or is not fortunate to get a person like a Devahuti and Kardama, and there are some shortcomings, depending to the extent to which a person is surrendered to the Krishna, to that degree one is allowed to give up the principles of Varnashrama. But if a person is especially a Grihastha, it is not encouraged for such a person to give up the principles of Varnashrama, especially if a person is having a child and a wife. His first dharma is to basically take care of his wife and a child, and then gradually, make your life in such a way that you can focus more on your spiritual life. So anyway, I wanted to kind of bring up some practical issues because, the purport, it's basically it's an ideal case, right? But in reality, the ideal case, may not be happening all the time. So that is why I wanted to bring these principles of Jaiva Dharma on how to practically follow the principles of Dharma, especially in the case of a devotee. Yeah? Any questions? Yes. Can you bring the mic? Oh, okay. Yeah. It is basically, there are like different types of karmas. Nitya karmas means those activities which you do every day, right? Everyday activities like, brushing your teeth, taking a bath. Those are also Nitya karmas. Or even like, if you're a Brahmana, then, performing your, 3 times Sandhya Vandana and performing the fire sacrifices. Those are the activities which you do every day. Those are called as Nitya karmas. And Naimittik karmas means occasional duties. Means you don't do it every day. You just do it once in a while. Like in the marriage ceremony, or Garbhadana Samskara, or in the name giving ceremonies. So there are like various ceremonies which you do occasionally. Those are called as Naimittik karmas. So those are basically and it depends upon whether you are a Brahmana, Vaishya, or Kshatriya, or a Shudra. It kind of differs from a person to person. And that's basically or in other words, basically you can call them the principles of Varnashrama, right? Varnashrama principle. You can call that to understand it more easily. Oh, you have a question?
So is explained then husband and wife have to be basically same in age, quality, yes. And what else as quality?
Age, quality, and character. Character.
Basically, like Kshatriya, supposed to, the best is marry Kshatriya woman, Brahminical person, Brahminical woman, there's no problem. What about age? What does it mean, age, completely same? Or
Yeah,
maybe
it's
there's some kind
basically,
of-
I mean, my understanding of age is that basically, you have the same level of maturity, right? If you have same level of maturity, like if you have the same age, then you can expect that,
Oh, I'm
maybe
not
they
sure.
have same level of
Not just,
maturity.
not just numbers, not just
I
numbers.
think so, yes, yeah.
Not sure.
Any other question? Yeah, you can just, yeah, okay. We'll first finish over here and then we'll come back to you. Okay.
This is a question, it's a personal question,
Yes.
which I'm asking you to help me in. The whole class, actually. Okay, I'm 91 and a half years old.
Okay.
True.
Yes.
If you want to see my birth certificate, I can get it.
Sure.
The reason I'm asking this question is I have never been married,
Yes.
nor have I ever had the desire to get married.
Okay.
Is there something wrong with me?
No. There's nothing.
Did I
wrong
miss
with you.
something?
No.
So what is the consensus? I should stay single and stay happy, or I should get married and also be happy? So please help me.
Yes.
How can I
So,
make a decision on this?
We must, okay, first of all, we must understand what is the goal. We must understand what is the goal. The goal. G-O-A-L, goal.
The goals?
Goal. The goal.
Spell that.
G-O-A-L, the goal.
Yeah, goal.
Yeah, the
Okay.
goal. So what is the goal?
My goal?
Yes.
My goal is to please Krishna.
Okay. Well, if you are able to please Krishna without, being a grihastha, then your life is successful, I guess, right?
You can please Krishna single, you can please Krishna double.
Yes.
Either way. But the question is how do I decide what Krishna wants in this condition, in this situation? Does he want me to get married? I don't feel any urge. I don't feel any lack. I don't feel any emptiness. So that's why I asked, is there something wrong with me?
No, there is nothing wrong with you, because the ultimate thing is that we are trying to achieve the ultimate purusharthas. In the Vedic conception, the ultimate purusharthas are dharma, artha, kama and moksha. But however, we being the followers of Bhagavad Dharma, for us the ultimate purushartha is the Panchama Purushartha, or the fifth type of purushartha, which is the
Slow
love of
down a little
Godhead.
bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, which is the fifth type of purushartha, which is the love of Godhead. So, as long as a person is able to achieve these purusharthas, either following the dharma, following the ashrama, which includes the grihastha or which does not include the grihastha, and as long as one is able to achieve these purusharthas, then one's life is successful. That's my answer.
Okay, can I tell you what has been told to me, what
Yes.
I was supposed to do? But that's what I wanted to hear what you
Yeah,
had to
sure,
say.
definitely.
So I was told that if I have no desire to combine with a female, if that is gone, then there is no reason to get married. I've also been told that combining is not the only thing in having a female for a wife. That having what you call a friendship. Friendship is something so beautiful and so wonderful, and it teaches selflessness. So that's why I was asking that. If I feel a lack in selflessness, it is good to get married because you have to surrender and sacrifice so much.
Yes.
And if I don't feel that because I have so many things to do and offer, then I don't have to get married. So that's the answers that have been given to me, and I'm sharing them with the whole class here. That it is a yes and a no, according to where you are at in the civilized state.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
You want to just get here?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks for the very wonderful presentation where you can understand purpose of Vedic marriage. Can you please clarify more on why a bhakta grihastha is advised to continue to follow Naimittika Dharma even if it becomes unfavorable for their bhajan?
Because that is temporary. It is temporary. The problems are temporary, they are not permanent. Because for a grihastha devotee, because they go through different phases of life, in some phase of life it may so happens that it is very difficult for them to practice bhakti. Like one example I have given is that when a mother gives birth to a child, right, for a few years it's very difficult for a woman to practice bhakti. But because it is difficult for her to practice bhakti, that does not mean that she have to give up her dharma. That is what he is trying to mean over there, because you have a higher responsibility. Even though sometimes it may so happens that it is actually, sometimes giving not favorable or not having enough time for you to practice devotional service, and those are temporary. They will pass away. They are not permanent.
But why is this Naimittika Dharma taken at a higher priority than bhajan? Even though it's temporary, the problems are temporary, but in that temporary circumstance, why is Naimittika Dharma placed on a higher priority than bhajan?
Well, the thing is that because, okay, when a person enters the grihastha ashram, that means that he had committed, right? He has a commitment to see it through, right? You cannot just give up in the middle. I mean, a person can give up the grihastha ashram, but not in the middle when he's having problems, right? Especially those things with those challenges which are actually not favorable, like having a child or having a job. Those are required. But one should not give up those commitments prematurely, because there are other people who are depending upon you. So that is why it is recommended, do not give up. Especially a person who's married. That's a special, more strict. The rules are more strict for him. Yes. Any questions? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Nidanta Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.